Seismic Cinema would like to thank the Fast Camels for our title and end credit track, Tales of the Expected. The Fast Camels are an explosive blend of 60s influenced psychedelia, freakbeat and classic power pop. You can check them out on Spotify, YouTube and on their website through bandcamp.com. Thanks guys.
Scotland. Yes, Scotland. You know, haggis, battered Mars bars, pint of tenants, bad food, worse weather, Sean Connery. All right, James, how's it going?
I'm alright, mate. How are you?
I can't do accents. Not on purpose, anyway.
I need to try and do it, mate. It's Snatch.
Nah, no. I'll let you stick to that one. So, welcome to Seismic Cinema and welcome to our review of Snatch. So, you can follow Seismic Cinema on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Facebook, both our community page and our main page. You can also watch and listen to us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can also listen to us on all those other platforms as well. So please consider giving us a like and a follow. We are part of the Podback Collective, which is a group of podcasters who look out for one another's backs and share each other's stuff.
Fancy taking a humorous trip down a random topic each week? You do? Well, you're in luck. Casting Views, presented by me, Dan, and a host of guests, bring you just that. With topics from the world of entertainment, science, sport, and everyday life, there's bound to be a topic that's going to inform and amuse. Catch Casting Views every Sunday on all listening platforms now.
So, recent episodes we've done on Seismic Cinema. I feel like a bit out the game at the moment. So, Seismic Soccer was actually the last one, which me and James weren't invited to, but Paul and Gary carried the flag forward. Before that, it was, well, probably done this in the wrong order, but it was Ghostbusters, which was our most recent movie review. And then before that, it was the ever successful Anchorman. So, James, just before we get into the review today, what have you been checking out over the last wee while?
Well, hi. I'm on the season 7. Season 7, Sons of Anarchy, episode 9 or 10. I can't remember which one it is now, but I'm nearly finished the whole thing. So it's been I've been at it, mate. I've been concentrating on just watching that, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's taking up all my time in a good way, though. Obviously, do you know what I mean? It's no as if it's a chore. It's really good TV. Getting to the end of it, so I'm actually quite excited to what might happen. It's the first time I've seen it as well, mate. So it's been out for a while, and I didn't join the hype when it came out. So I'm late to the party in this one, but I nearly finished it, and obviously I need to say as well that, you know, I say I've just been watching Son of Anarchy, but I do check out the weekly episode of Expedition Bigfoot, which is tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last of the season, so looking forward to hearing about the new developments.
Cool. I always marvel at your consistency and your being able to commit to one show.
If you start dipping in and out, man, you lose focus, and then what's to say that you might just focus on something else. It's away from Sons of Anarchy. Do you know what I mean? I need to watch it, man, because I've committed to it. But like I say, it's a good show, mate. I mean, I recommend it to anybody who's thinking about watching it.
I'm struggling to find time and focus to watch things at the moment, to be honest. Still watching From. I'm in season 2. I'm going to finish that, although I don't think it's actually finished. I think there's another season to come. And I actually started listening to a new podcast. I think you mentioned you like How I Met Your Mother, don't you?
Aye.
Josh Radnor, Ted, has started a kind of rewatch podcast. He's going to go back through the show and do like a kind of weekly review of it from like his older perspective. And I listened to the first episode of that the other day, and then off the back of that, I watched the pilot of How I Met Your Mother, and some things don't age particularly well. I think it still makes me laugh. So I'm thinking of maybe having that as my kind of wee comfort rewatch.
Aye. I mean, I did see he put something on Twitter about it. I just didn't realise it was out now. I thought it was maybe something.
The first one's out. It's on YouTube and Spotify and stuff, so it's worth checking out if you're into it.
Excuse me. I'm laughing. I'm coughing.
It's a good wee nostalgia trip anyway.
Dave,
Liam,
it's a trailer.
Watch It If You Can podcast. Join us for each episode as we create box sets of our favourite films and TV shows.
We go through the cast to see what else they've been in, along with any recommendations.
We pick our favourite characters, performances, moments and highlights from the soundtrack too.
We ask if there's anything to make it better and look at the lasting legacy of our pick.
We have a little fun with our quickfire round, and finally, what else would you like list based on themes from the episode.
Maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can.
Or if you've already seen it.
Well, you can watch it again if you can.
So, on to this week's review. So, I just realised something. I forgot that out of sync. I forgot to do our themed intro. So yeah, I'm Colin, and I hadn't seen this until I watched it for the review. Paul probably watched the Netflix show called Snatch, which I'm not even sure if it's connected to this. And James?
I probably wrote an essay on it.
I think it's quite fitting for a film like this that we do things slightly out of order. So yeah, we finally reached 175 subscribers on YouTube, although we did meet it previously, but then a bot disappeared. So our next call to action is to subscribe to the channel and try and get us up to 180 would be our next target. So yeah, so I haven't seen it. I have seen The Gentleman, which was the first ever it was the first ever podcast we put on YouTube. I think it was also the first ever one we did on StreamYard with the video, which is quite interesting. And this movie was mentioned when we were doing that, and I just never got around to watching it. So obviously it was one of the ones I kind of put on for this week. So yeah, I watched it for the first time. I actually ultimately watched it twice, partly due to tiredness and having to rewatch bits that I'd missed, but also I think it is a film that you probably need to watch more than once to really kind of catch everything that's going on.
It's pretty fast paced. Obviously with the amount of characters are in it, as well. I think it is one you have to kind of watch twice in terms of not really understand it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory through the narration, I think, but just to try and catch a glimpse of each character and basically how they evolve throughout the whole film, mate. Do you know what I mean? And maybe you probably have a favourite character and things. I'm sure you'll come on to it, but it's different. I think it's maybe a good watching it again and looking out for different characters and see how they've changed. You know what I mean? It's good that way.
Mm. So yeah, before I get into that further, what's your background with the film?
Well, it came out in 2000, didn't it? So, it came out in 2000. So, I was in fourth year? No, I was in fourth. No, I was in third year at the time. So I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched it maybe when I was in sixth year, first year uni, whatever. So 2003-04. So obviously I wasn't old enough to go to pictures and see it anyway. But I've seen it back in the day, and of course when you watch these films, Guy Ritchie films are all quite kind of, I wouldn't say similar in a way, but I think they've all got this kind of theme of the way that it's shot and directed. So Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, he done, was it Human Traffic he done as well, did he? I need to double check that. But even if he didn't do that, they're all kind of similar-esque kind of films, aren't they, a little bit? So, So I kind of watched them all at one time because this was, I'm not going to give anything away, but after watching this film, I watched Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and kind of films like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I've seen also a few. I've seen a few of them there. Still got a couple to watch.
I seen there was a Netflix show. It's got Ron Weasley in it. From what I've seen from,
Is it connected to the movie or is it just a coincidence?
it must be like a TV show based on based on a way like they're doing with Harry Potter, something like that. I imagine. I don't know.
Because the gentleman obviously had a show that came out last year.
I've seen. I've seen maybe the first 2 episodes of that or something like that. I don't know, watching it in its entirety. So
Actually, I haven't watched it. I've heard it's decent actually.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's got the kind of it's obviously it's Guy Ritchie, isn't it? Does it? So it's got the kind of same kind of themes in that throughout it. But like I say, mate, I've not seen the full thing, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll give a wee bit of overview of the film. So as you said, it came out in 2000. It came in at an hour 44. It's a lot of genres, really, isn't it? It's a bit of thriller, comedy, crime, kind of black humor kind of vibe. So the synopsis is: in the underbelly of London, merciless gangsters, boxing promoters, amateur thieves, and violent bookmakers try to retrieve a precious diamond stolen from an Antwerp jeweler. The tagline for the film, or there's always more than one, but stealing stones and breaking bones, which is quite a catchy one.
I like that one. That's good.
It got a score of 8.2 on IMDb, only 55 with the critics, and 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was written and directed by Guy Ritchie, as we mentioned. It had a budget of $6 million and made $84 million at the box office, which is pretty successful. It won 4 awards and had 7 nominations. Right. My whiteboard is only so big for making a note of the cast members and the characters. So if I've missed anyone out, James, you can fill in the gaps.
Okay.
So we've got Jason Statham as Turkish. And by the way, I decided to wear my fake Greece top because it was as close to Turkey as I was getting from my wardrobe.
Fair enough. I was wondering why you
it was as close as I could get. Stephen Graham as Tommy. We've got Dennis Farina as Avi. I originally wrote down his formal name, and then when I looked at it, I was like, "Who is that?" We've got Brad Pitt as Mickey O'Neill. We've got Benicio del Toro as Frankie Four Fingers. There's my Star Wars reference because he was in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, he was. He's also in what else is he in? He was in something else actually. What was it? I can't remember. I'll come back to me.
Okay, we've got the ex-footballer Vinnie Jones as Bullet Tooth. Tony, wasn't it? Yeah.
Aye, Tony.
No, yeah. That's right. And Alan Ford as Brick Top. Was there anyone else you wanted to mention character-wise? Well, there's also Tyrone that I've got as my screen name, but there was quite a lot of people to fit in.
I'm going to give a wee mention to Lenny James as well, who plays Saul. You'll know him for, I feel like the guy for The Simpsons here. You'll know him for, he's in Breaking Bad, The Walking Dead. He's the guy with the kind of kendo stick.
I've not watched The Walking Dead yet, although I was considering it at some point.
He's also in The Line of Duty in the first season of it. So,
right. I did watch quite a lot of that.
Aye, so you'll know him.
Anybody else?
Aye, you'll mention the Big Frank Butcher, mate.
Oh yeah. When I was watching it, I actually turned to Aileen and I said, "Is that the guy from EastEnders?" I was like, "Surely it's not." But I suppose if Vinnie Jones is in these kind of films, then although Vinnie Jones has been in other similar films, isn't he? Right.
Aye.
So I wondered, also, you've got quite a bit of background with this film. I wondered if you had any trivia that you want to share.
I did look at some trivia, mate. Aye. I'll give you a few. Only managed to get a few, but it's a few in Brad Pitt actually. So Brad Pitt, who was a big fan of Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, approached Guy Ritchie. He wanted to be in the film, so he was desperate for the part. But when Ritchie found out that he couldn't master the London accent, a bit like myself, he gave him the role as Mickey, the Traveller. I'll just say that now, Mickey the Traveller. So he couldn't. So that's why he talks the way he talks. So that was quite funny. Just imagine that. I mean, Brad Pitt's a good actor. I think, you know. I mean, he obviously he's better doing different things, but But I thought he could have done the London accent, but obviously not. He also, when he was told about Mickey would be playing the boxer, Brad Pitt was a wee bit concerned because he just finished Fight Club, which was the year before. You do get some Fight Club vibes from it as well, from his doing his fights. But he didn't really want to play the same part again, the same role. But because he was that desperate to work with Guy Ritchie, he took the role.
There you go.
Aye. I've got one more, mate, and I'll let you give me some trivia as well. So Lenny James, who I was talking about there, who plays Saul, when he was holding up the bookies, he actually hit himself in the I'll say private parts with a shotgun. So he actually hit himself with it, while blasting the hole in the wall. But continued the scene. So that footage was actually used in the scene. So if you look carefully, you'll see that. Which I didn't look back.
I saw that one. Well, I didn't see it at the time. I read about it as well.
Aye.
I thought this one was quite funny. The scene, the man that approaches the car in one of the scenes is not actually Bulletproof Tony, because Vinnie Jones was in jail for fighting the night before the scene was filmed.
Aye.
So he wasn't actually available for that one. So I thought that was quite funny. Let's see what other ones there was. The role of Bricktop was originally offered to Sean Connery.
Yes.
And he kind of turned up to watch a screening and then said it's a good film, but you can't afford me. And then that was that. And that was how it went to Alan Ford in the end. This is something that will probably come up when we're discussing in general, but nearly every death actually appeared off screen, which is interesting because it means there's not as much kind of obvious violence in this.
Didn't really notice that at the time, mate, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Just trying to see if there's any other ones I wanted to mention. Guy Ritchie was dating Madonna at one point, and he paid kind of $1 million for one of her songs, which I didn't know that.
I knew he was married to her, or
Yeah.
but I didn't realise that.
See, just while we're talking about music, there's a bit of music that happens twice in the film, and I'm sure it's the same music that's in Shaun of the Dead when they go into the newsagents.
Aye, it's
Like, dun, dun, dun.
it's the specials Ghost Town. That's the song.
Am I right in saying that was in Shaun of the Dead?
It wasn't Shaun of the Dead. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, because it was actually in the movie twice, which was quite interesting.
Because Ghost Town, and people can maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Specials, wrote the song "The Ghost Town." It was about London, so that song's about London.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right there. It's obviously it's based in London
Cool.
and whatever. So maybe I can a
Yep.
nod to about that.
Yep. We'll obviously come across more, and I'll probably remember more as we go along. But just before we get into the plot of the film, is there any particular? There's probably loads, but is there any particular quotes that are your favourites from this one?
I've got loads, mate. I've got absolute loads. This is a film you could just quote all the time, man.
So give us a wee flavour then.
Right, okay. Well, I thought we were going to go about the scenes and I would talk about the quotes there, but I think the quote, probably I don't know if it's the most famous quote on though.
Give me one then before we get in.
Right, okay. I'm going to do Mickey. And it's when Tommy, played by Stephen Graham, comes up to try and buy a caravan. And it's just, it's obviously a bunch of travellers and whatever. They're just surrounding him and all that. And then they go to the caravan and you see Mickey and you see the dogs come out the caravan. And they just kind of like jump, like kind of no jump on him, but they're surrounding him anyway. And because Mickey just kind of, it's no English, it's no Irish, and Turkish pretty much says that in the film. He's like, do you like dags? And you can't really understand them. Like, do you like dags? You like dags? Like dags? And it's like, oh, dogs. Do you like dogs? Yeah, I like dogs. And it's just one that stands out to me, man, because
he's like, I like, funny. What was it? He says, I like caravans better or something like that.
I like caravans more. I like caravans more.
There's two things there. Obviously, I hadn't actually watched the film yet when you, Paul, started quoting that in the chat. So obviously, I seen it in the chat before I saw it in the movie. So when I came to it, I obviously recognised it. Also, the whole thing with Mickey talking about another Edgar Wright film it reminds me quite a lot of the scene in Hot Fuzz when they go out to the farm and thingy Bradley Filch.
Aye.
He's like, he does this from like, and they're like translating for him.
I need the translators. Aye,
yeah.
that's right.
It reminded me quite a lot of that. So it was actually there's quite a lot of similarities between Guy Ritchie's directorial style and Edgar Wright in terms of a lot of the kind of quick cuts and the way the camera's used in a lot of the scenes.
Oh, definitely, mate. You could see. I mean, I think where Edgar Wright maybe. Well, Edgar Wright kind of got his style from, because a lot of fast cuts in this as well, especially with Avi going back to America and things like that, and you can get at the end of them as well. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of similarities there.
It's not a big quote in the film, mate, but it made me laugh as well. So when the obviously Turkish, who's with Jason Statham, is like, we don't need a kind of base and things in the caravan they've got the new isn't fit for purpose, but in their kind of warehouse type thing, and he's asking, what's happening with those sausages, Charlie? And he goes, we've 5 minutes Turkish. And then he asks him again, and he goes, what's happening with those sausages? He's like, it was 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes, fucking 5 minutes ago. So it's just 3 things like that, mate. It made me laugh. Do you know what I mean? It's just
that's
things.
That was one of my favorites as well, because like the first time I watched it, that was maybe the bit that was just stood out, because that guy's just so chilled out, isn't he? Just making the food. It's actually a good point to mention. We had a wee comment on X from Rapid Reviews Radio, and they said that bit you just mentioned was still quoted in their parents' house whenever dinner's running late. My dad will ask 5 minutes before due time, to which my mum will say 5 minutes. Then when it's 2 minutes over, he will ask again and she will say 2 minutes. He will then say it was 2 minutes 5 minutes ago. So that quote is used in Rapid Review Radio's household.
That's good. That was a good.
I know we normally do the comments at the end, but it just seemed relevant because we were talking about that bit there. So, right. So it's about time we get into the actual plot of the film. And as I said in the intro, because I've only seen this like twice, but in reality, probably once, because I do tend to fall asleep a lot when I'm watching movies, particularly during the week, just through tiredness. But the opening scene I've seen a few times now, so it's obviously it starts off with Turkish and Tommy talking, kind of introducing themselves and some other characters as well, and it's quite obvious right away that they two have quite a close relationship.
Aye, they do, mate. I mean, it's like kind of the Turkish is the narrator, isn't he? And he's kind of they're both kind of the kind of the boxing promoters, but they're kind of small fry. They know their place in that kind of
They're the everyman, aren't they?
Aye, they know everybody, and they know the place in that kind of the dog eat dog world and things. But he basically knows that he's the smart one, and Tommy's just the daft sidekick. And I like the idea as well that he's the way how he got his names, and he talks about Tommy thinks he got his name from a gun. You know what I mean? And all things like that. So it was good. It was a good relationship they had on. Yeah. You can see that throughout the film, mate. I mean, it basically when the two of them are together, it's like plans are hatching. But as soon as Tommy goes on his own, it's kind of chaos. And so aye.
I really liked Turkish said it a few times during the film where he was like the Germans, like just anytime like Tommy was doing something that he was maybe nervous about the consequences, he's just like because he says it later in the film as well.
Aye, he goes like that, doesn't he? He's like, "What's that down your trousers?" He's like, "Is that a gun?" He's like, "What do you want that gun? What do you want a gun for?" He's like, "Oh, it's for protection." Anyway, because he's Germans.
He's quite funny. He's probably one of my favorite characters as well, to be honest. Turkish.
Ah, he is. He's up
such an odd name, and when you say it out loud, it's even weirder.
Aye.
So they introduce themselves. You have that wee scene we're talking about with the sausages and that, but the kind of main intro scene is the kind of crew of thieves, in the kind of Jewish garb, on the way to steal the big diamond. What do you make of the way that scene was filmed? Because it was quite an interesting way they went about it.
It was good, mate. I noticed a few things when watching it, mate, as well. And you might have noticed this during the film as well. So it's basically you kind of see them, and then you see them through the kind of CCTV, don't you?
Aye.
It's close up shots of them walking dead slow, and then when they get through, so it's kind of the slow build up. What's going to happen here? I mean, they're just kind of like Jewish guys walking into the exchange, and they seem like they're in place. Obviously, they had to dress up to actually be in. They would not get like harassed or anything like that, so they could get in. That kind of slow pace build up. You can see them through the CCTV, see them again, kind of through kind of our view, kind of our point of view, if you want to say that. And then when you get into there, it's just the fast pace. It just happens so quickly. They undress, get the guns out, and then you got the diamond.
I was quite surprised. Like, obviously, you knew stuff was going to kick off, but just how kind of chaotic and fast it was took me by surprise a wee bit.
Aye, I would have done, mate. Also, I knew it was coming. I mean, like I can't remember when I first seen it, how I thought about it. I mean, but I knew what was happening at that point. But it was that slow kind of build up to the fast action kind of get let's get the diamond and get out type thing.
It's just random. The conversation they were having when they were traveling up, just a bit like, was it Virgin Mary or something like that, wasn't it?
Aye.
was quite random. And then I like the way, like, obviously you're kind of seeing their journey towards the office. Just you're going along all these different monitors, aren't you? And it's kind of just showing the path that they're taking. But it's quite cool that when the camera moves, you suddenly, like, you see them in real life, because it happens later in the film as well, doesn't it? There's another monitor later on, and they just kind of walk around the corner, and suddenly they're inside the TV, essentially, inside the same room.
It happens in the pawn shop as well with Lenny. Well, Lenny, who's his real name? Saul. And then you can see, what's his name? Boris as well. Boris looks straight into the camera, and he's in the, like he's as if he's kind of breaking the fourth wall type thing.
Yeah.
Aye, so it's a good use of that. So it is that we
Yeah.
kind of, as if we're watching them through the CCTV. We watched it through two lenses essentially.
Mm-hmm. So Frankie Four Fingers is obviously a part of that crew, and it's Antwerp where they are kind of stealing it from. So it's an 86 carat diamond, and then the plan is obviously then to smuggle that over to London, England, which is the kind of how it all kicks off. But there's Frankie's encouraged by, so this is where it starts to get all the different connections. So Frankie and Avi, they're not. So what is he, like his kind of boss sort of thing, or his, like, what's the connection there?
So Frankie Four Fingers.
Aye, because obviously he's
So
kind of stolen it. Yeah,
he's getting the diamond for him, isn't he? For Avi.
yeah.
Aye.
So he's like his boss essentially. But then one of his crew is actually, like, is encouraging him to go and see Boris to get a gun essentially. But then he's obviously secretly phoning him as well and saying that he should try and steal the diamond. So he's like the kind of snitch on the inside.
Aye, I mean the diamond's obviously the focal point of the whole thing.
Yeah, the MacGuffin.
That changes people, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's aye, which is obviously the theme of the film, mate. It's about greed, isn't it?
Yeah.
How it changes people and whatever. But you're right, mate. It's as soon as the diamond's out in the open, they want it for themselves.
Yeah, there's just so many different people going down different routes to get to the same location, isn't there?
Aye.
So we've got that. We've got the diamond being stolen, and then the phone calls, and then Frankie's going to go to London to see Pat Butcher to let him see the diamond and see if he approves.
That's it, because he's like the guy that looks at all and makes sure it's it's kosher and all that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Oh, I can't really do his voice. I think Butcher's voice is very deep, man, isn't it? I was trying to do it, man, but I just can't.
Because let's try and get the connections right. He's cousins with Avi, is that right?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
So you need to get one of those big spider diagrams for all the connections here. So he's going over there, but there's early concerns about Frankie and his gambling habits, and they're concerned that he's going to end up going to the bookies or casinos and making a mess of it all.
They can't really trust him, mate, because he's passed. Do you know what I mean? He's got a
Viva Las Vegas.
They do that twice, didn't they? Kind of cutscenes. You know, in that he's quite good. They can't really trust him, mate, because of the fact that he'll just gamble things away. Do you know what I mean? With it, he's just obviously an addict in that way, where he doesn't really. It's just for the sheer kind of excitement of gambling and whatever, and whatever's won or lost, it doesn't really matter to Frankie. But they ultimately as well, they don't want him to kind of die at it either. Do you know what I mean? He's had a costly mistake before and all that sort of thing. So They want to make sure that their prized possession is safe.
Is it ever explained how, like Boris's brother is the guy who told him to phone Boris? That's right, isn't it?
Sorry, say that again, mate.
Boris's brother was the kind of guy on the inside that wanted him to go see Boris.
Aye.
Yeah. Is it ever explained why, was he always a friend of like Frankie, or did he just kind of like tag along for that heist? Like, was it ever explained how they were in cahoots with each other?
I'm not sure. I just thought maybe they could have done jobs and things for them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just thought
so
they'd done jobs and that for them.
Okay, so that's all kind of set in motion. So Frankie's going over to London to meet Pat Butcher to look at the diamonds. They're worried about his gambling. So then we go back to, so we've got the kind of two stories, don't we? And they're all kind of mingling together. So Turkish and Tommy then meet up with Bricktop. So it's a kind of underground fighting world. And Bricktop's one of the pun intended top characters in the film, because this guy's just absolutely mental, isn't he?
Aye. Do you know why he's called Bricktop?
It's to do with his red ginger hair.
Ginger hair, aye. He's ginger hair.
We need to stop reading the same IMDb pages.
If it's only one page, mate, you only one page. No.
You start at the bottom, I'll start at the top.
Well, Bricktop he's not meant to, I think Bricktop's an interesting character, mate, because at the end of the day, I think everybody in the film is kind of likeable to some degree. Whether that's just through their character arc or is it's through just how they, I don't know, portray themselves. But Bricktop is just a nasty piece of work, mate. I mean, he has, you know, underground fighting clubs and all that. He's got dog fighting. He's in it all, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's got his fingers in a lot of pies. Does Bricktop, and I don't like him as a character, but I think he's got a lot of the good lines in it, man, as well. Do you know what I mean? I think he's got a lot of funny lines in the film.
Yeah.
He's also important as well. Do you know what I mean? He does a lot of nasty things through the film, and we'll go into them, I suppose. But I forgot your question now, mate. Well, to be honest with you,
Sorry, I wouldn't say he's not likable, obviously, but he's that sadistic that it kind of makes him quite a good character in a way.
Aye, no, he is a good character, mate. Aye, definitely.
And he's just like, from the first scene you see him in, you see that he's not shy to just kind of pop people off for. Like, there's a guy who gives him some information, then he's like, "Oh, I don't like a grass," and then he just like, they take him out of the game as well.
Aye, that was in the boxing, the kind of gym, isn't it? He's like, you've got all the qualities of a dog. You know, except loyalty. He's like, "Are you a dog, Gary?" And he goes, "No, I'm not a dog." And then he's like, he talks about the snitches and he kills them and that. So he does. And he's good. Obviously, he's got a lot of good quotes, mate. As I say, I mean, he's memorable in that way.
Yeah. So Bricktop is demanding that Turkish and Tommy's fighter, Gorgeous George, takes a fall in a fixed fight. And I don't know a lot about like the fighting world, but is it quite a common thing in, obviously it happens in movies and stuff quite a lot, is it quite a common thing in real life? Has there been lots of instances of like kind of people like falling in particular rounds to make money, like, or is it more just a TV and movie trope? I'm assuming there's some real substance to it.
Boxing is one of the most corrupt sports out, man. So it is, definitely. Where it can be, you know, proven that it happens or not, I mean, is another thing, mate. But do you watch boxing at all, mate? No.
It's been on now and again around friends, but it's not something I'm particularly interested in.
We can call a match with a naked eye, mate. Do you know what I mean? And then we know who would win, who would lose just through points and whatever. but then the judges would come up with some mad random decisions, and it doesn't go the way that would be. Do you know what I mean? Like for example, well, this is we all knew for those who watched the fight that Tyson Fury versus Usyk. We all know that Usyk probably should have won it, really. But the way that the points were scored, it was like the fight was a lot closer than it actually was. You know what I mean? So Usyk won with massive points difference. But watching the fight, it was closer than that. Do you know what I mean? But boxing is a corrupt sport, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, but that's obviously been portrayed in a sense of the kind of illegal underground fighting that's there through gangsters. Do you know what I mean? Because they're there to make money. Do you know what I mean? They want if a person can take a fall, then the people he's got to bet on that then will ultimately succeed from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Tommy, then, as you mentioned earlier, when Tommy goes off and does things, it doesn't usually end very well. So it's Tommy and Gorgeous George that go off to the kind of campsite to try and get a replacement caravan, because the one they've got for conducting their business isn't fit for purpose. This is probably one of the most kind of standout sequences, I would say.
That is good, mate. I mean, for the moment they get out the car and they get surrounded with all the folk, and it's like the wee boys asking them for money and all that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I think it's kind of painting, what it would maybe be like for those type of people. Do you know what I mean? And how they kind of get by and whatever. Obviously,
Tommy's so naive, isn't he? With thinking the boys have been really nice until they ask for money.
I know, aye. And then they're just swarming people when they get, obviously. Was it they make a deal to sell the caravan, and they try and drive it away, and the wheels fall off it, and it's like, I want my money back. And he goes, no, you've made a deal. I mean, and as this is happening, it's quite funny, mate, because you've got Turkish narrating in the background, and he's pretty much calling, what would basically happen. And what ultimately happens is that Mickey challenges Gorgeous George to a fight to get the money back or whatever, or you know what I mean. And
yeah, that was to get the money back. Yeah,
it was good. It was just because obviously you don't expect, you see the size of the boxer compared to Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt doesn't look like a fighter at all. He's obviously he's smoking away. He's just kind of chilled, laid back. And then you kind of get to that kind of, which I wrote down, mate. It's that kind of Fight Club scene where he takes his top off and he's on tattoos, he's ripped and all that, and you just know that he's a fighter. And he takes him down with one. Well, he takes a beating. That's what he can take a beating. He kind of reminded me of Homer Simpson a wee bit at the start, when Homer Simpson.
It's funny because when you were talking about the fixed fights, that kind of bit about Homer actually came to mind.
Aye, Homer would just take.
Is Homer not asked to take a fall on a particular round, or did I make that up?
I can't remember, mate. But
I'm not like a real life boxing fan, but I did enjoy Rocky and I like the Creed films, so I actually do like boxing movies, not necessarily boxing in real life.
Sporting kind of films like that, mate. Aye, definitely.
There was a bit you forgot to mention just with the caravan, because I think Mickey says, like, why would I want a caravan with two wheels or something like that? Like,
that's it, yes, because he obviously knows he obviously knows it, and Mickey's no daft either. Do you know what I mean? I think as we watch the film, mate, we because the way he speaks, it's kind of undecipherable, and we don't really know what he's talking about. And Turkish in the background saying this is why they speak like that, because nobody can understand what they're saying and get the better deals. But he's no daft, so he's a con man essentially at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? He'll do what he can to get by and then some, and then he's not taking the caravan back for anything.
And I think it shows how good a fighter he is, because he's, again, not something I know a lot about, but he's a bare-knuckle fighter, so obviously that means he's got an even more powerful punch than somebody who's like wearing boxing gloves, you know, because that obviously comes up later on as being important.
Aye, definitely.
So after Gorgeous George gets knocked out, they kind of leave it a bit open ended whether he's just kind of out for the count or whether he's dead, but he does die obviously because Tommy's then freaking out because they're saying that like they're not going to let him live because then they'll have people asking why there's a dead body or why someone died on the kind of campsite.
Aye, that bit was a bit mad, wasn't it? Because they're kind of everybody just slowly kind of went towards the body as well, which I mean, like kind of ready round it and that. I was like, oh, what's going on? And so you can see Tommy's face, he's shite himself. Do you know what I mean?
They leave it. I feel like during like the fighting scenes, because the way they're filmed, they do leave them quite kind of open to interpretation about what actually happened.
Aye, I like that.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think what happens next. So Mickey eventually he basically agrees that he'll fight for Tommy and Turkish in exchange for a better caravan, wasn't it?
Aye.
Yeah. And then there's the whole bit where, this is later in the film, Turkish accidentally insults Mickey's mum by accident. He's like, well, I didn't actually mean that. I can't remember the exact wording, but he basically insulted the mum without meaning to.
Aye. But obviously, you know, Bricktop's not very happy, mate, that, you know, Gorgeous George can't be the fighter anymore because he's obviously he knows that he's going to take the dive. Basically knows he's going to take the dive and, you know, it's going to be a success for him. Do you know what I mean? But he's obviously having to get Mickey in, who's unpredictable. I mean, you don't know him. Do you know what I mean? And Bricktop's putting his faith in Turkish because, you know, what's happened before now. But it was interesting to get when that all happens.
Yep. So, kind of moving on from Turkish and Tommy, Frankie, who obviously we talked about earlier with the gambling problem, is lured to the bookie shop that's owned by Bricktop, and Boris the Blade. They've all got such cool names, don't they? A ruthless Russian gangster. He has a plan to steal the diamond by getting Frankie to bet on a rigged fight. So the fight in question is basically it's Bricktop's man, whose name escapes me, who's essentially going to fight against Mickey, who's just kind of been drafted in. So that's kind of how it ties the two parts of the story together.
That's right.
What was the name of? Can you remember Bricktop's fighter's name that is mentioned in that scene? I'm sure.
Can't remember, mate, off the top of my head now.
It's not that important. He's just kind of there as the opposition, isn't he? So the main man, just check the names right. So Boris kind of gets some high quality criminals, I use that term loosely, to rob Bricktop's bookie to get the diamond, which is now there. So this is the kind of introduction of some memorable characters, isn't it?
Aye, so this is where, you know, Boris goes into the pawn shop and acquires the help of Vinny, Sol and Tyrone. And
It just makes me laugh every time.
So basically, he wants their help to rob the bookies, to set the plan in motion, and it's like the Three Stooges, isn't it? I mean,
because Tyrone's kind of new to their crew, isn't he? Like, he's just been kind of drafted in as the getaway driver.
He's the getaway driver because I don't think he's good for anything else, mate. You know what I mean? But he's just the getaway
there's a
driver.
line. It's what could he get? And just kind of comments about his weight.
Aye, There's a few things. There's a few of the references to people's weight in the film as well. You know, it's kind of in a kind of in a bad way.
But they are quite funny because they're essentially. I know it's like a comedy film in a sense, but they're like the real comic relief, aren't they? They're just like the kind of clueless, kind of chaotic characters.
Aye. So I want to talk about the bit when they go into the bookies to rob it.
Aye, that was unexpected. Yeah,
Right, so
the parking scene.
aye. If it's just that what will go wrong, will go wrong type thing. Into the bookies, and you'll get Saul who kind of holds up the gun to the woman behind the counter. It's like he's the money on the rest of it. But as that happens, he hits the panic button, and we'll get the gun pointing towards the woman. But we've got Vinny, who is stuck in the actual kind of shutters as well.
Yeah.
So he's been caught in the shutters, and it's like, what's going on here? This is like the worst hold up of any a shop, bookies, whatever, ever, man. And they basically get him after that, and it's like gives the money, and he goes, "Can't, all bets are off." He's, "What do you mean all bets are off?" I'm saying, "Well, there's no bets, there's no money." He's like, "I don't believe you." And then basically she hands him over a bag of pennies or something like that, and he's like, "This can't be real, this can't be real." And she takes the gun off him. It's just absolutely so funny. Takes the gun off him, and then she managed to hit the panic button away, I think, and the shutters go up at the desk, and they're stuck. They're stuck. They can't get out. They can't get out.
Or they think they're stuck.
They think they're stuck. They can't get out. Because they can't get the door open. It's like it's on lockdown or whatever. It's the kind of what it says. It's on a bloody timer or something like that. And then 2 minutes later, we've got a guy who walks through the bookies because it's a pull door and not a push door. It's honestly that is just shows you how daft they are. Do you know what I mean? It's so funny, man. Like at the same time I'm like, how can you be that daft? I mean, Boris isn't enlisted, obviously Saul for a start, because he's obviously done jobs before to get on a quick buck and whatever. But yet when we see it happening, it's like this guy's it's like the first time he's ever done this type of thing, isn't it? So it was funny, man.
They think they're trapped, but my main man saves the day.
Big Tyrone, mate. It's Big Tyrone. Is he in another film or something like that? Because is there another film, mate? I'm just wondering why you used him as your screen name. Is that a reference? Oh, yeah.
No, I just thought it was funny because he was just like so ill-fitted for the job, and when they were like parking up before this scene, he was like, "Oh, it was a bit tight," and then what was it? The other guy said he was just like when you reverse things, like reverse towards you or something like that. So it was something like that.
Aye, that's right. Aye.
I can't remember the exact wording, but it was kind of the gist of what he was saying. So obviously, Bricktop finds out that people have tried to rob his bookstore, and he's always raging, but he's even more raging about that as well. So we then got onto the fight, and Mickey's just does Mickey things, doesn't he? He just doesn't. He's just got his own agenda.
Aye, and the fight. So he's basically Turk's just telling him that the guys he's fighting. He's he might be fat and whatever, man, but he's quick and he's got a good punch on him. He's a good fighter, blah blah blah. And it's like Mickey's kind of slouched it, in the corner, and it's like you could at least act like a boxer. Do you know what I mean? Act like a fighter. And he's like, right, okay. And he's like, do you take the fall in the 4th round? And Mickey's like, aye, no worries. And then as the bell goes for the fight to start, Mickey punches him first punch it is, and he knocks him out first. And as he knocks him down, there's a wee smirk with Mickey as well, like, to Turkish and that. He's like, just a wee smirk to say, "Oh, sorry." But as that happens, you can see Turkish and Tommy's face going like, "Oh no!" And it pans to everybody else. "Oh no! Oh no!" What's going to happen here?
Because Bricktop's been built up as like the big bad, hasn't he? And like he goes into a lot of graphic detail about what happens to people. Like, he feeds them to the pigs and he cuts them up and like, well, he starts off by giving them to the dogs, doesn't he?
Aye.
And then whatever's less given to the pigs. It's interesting because you talked about how Bricktop is such a diabolical character, but he still cares a lot about the pigs, doesn't he, and their nutrition.
Aye. But it's because, obviously... Well, actually, I read a fact about that guy. Who plays him again? Can't remember who plays him.
Alan Ford.
Alan Ford, aye. So, Alan Ford in real life, he is an animals activist, and he's a vegan or something like that. So,
That's
it's
why I
totally
care so much about. That's why I care so much about the pigs.
aye, so he's obviously a different kind of character for the actual film, but he's like, he talks about the pigs. You know, it's that whole scene about how graphic it is about you know what, it's like you be careful of people who own pig farms, because that's what they use them for. You know what I mean? So you feed a human to the dogs, they won't eat it all. But you feed it to the pigs, you know, it knows for the very, you know, minute second of like how fast it can devour a human body and all that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hence the expression, as greedy as a pig. So it's funny. It's funny, and it's obviously horrific as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh Jesus Christ, that guy knows a lot about how to get rid of a human body.
Indeed. Yeah, it wasn't something. The only other thing we've ever watched with pigs in it was a Black Mirror.
Well, let's not go there.
Yeah. So Avi's getting a bit restless, isn't he? He's worried about, and rightly so. He's worried about Frankie. So just worth noting that he kind of flies in as well, doesn't he? And he says the classic quote about England that I kind of riffed at the start.
Aye.
However, they do manage to the three amigos. They do manage to kidnap Frankie, who's handcuffed to the briefcase that contains the diamond. But he's essentially then killed, isn't he, by Boris, and they take Frankie's arm off as well. And then at that point, Boris is getting the diamond. So that was just kind of just before the fight that we were talking about.
Aye. I mean, they kind of kidnap Frankie, and then basically they're talking, and they mention Boris's name while he's still alive, obviously, and Boris knows that already, and that's why he kills Frankie, because obviously he's heard that, you know, Boris is in on it, so he's got to kill him to save himself, basically. But before he didn't know that the diamond was put back in the briefcase, and he is the only person who knows the combination of it. So they they get his arm off, and then they put a tea cozy on his head, didn't they, as well?
So it's referenced a few times as things go on. So the aftermath of the fight is quite nuts. So Bricktop send people to the arcade, and they start trashing that. Turkish tries to fight back, and Tommy saves them in the end, doesn't he?
Aye.
And
he goes to the arcade, and he doesn't really realise how many people are in there in the arcade smashing up, and then kind of Turkish is kind of outnumbered a wee bit, and then we've got Tommy comes in with his bulletless gun. Is it bulletless at that point?
I think so, yeah.
Aye.
It just makes loud noises.
Aye.
Because there was a bit at the start about the gun, and it was like, if you get a rubbish gun, you may as well make it large, so you can hit people with it. But it's actually foreshadowed later in the film when that same thing's mentioned.
That's right.
So probably the most shocking part of the film, because Mickey's mum seems like a really nice lady, and Mickey was really fond of her, but they just torch this caravan and just burn her alive, and it's pretty shocking, isn't it?
It is shocking. Probably didn't expect it, to be honest with you, mate. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
just make sure he pays. Obviously, because Mickey himself goes, he doesn't have somebody to answer to. He answers to himself. Do you know what I mean? He does his own thing. He's a lone wolf in that way. Why should he answer to somebody? We find out later why. But certainly, what way can Bricktop, get back at Mickey? And it's to obviously the arcade, and it's in the thing where he lives. He's the caravan with his mum in it, and obviously I think they mentioned that family, like obviously the kind of the travellers and who they are, they're very family orientated, and I think if he's not going to follow these rules or do what I ask him to do or do what he's told, really, probably better put is that then there's got to be consequences for it, and that's what happens. It's a shame. You're right, mate, because she's always a nice lady. I mean, she was always kind of friendly and welcoming and things like that, and see that happening, that was a wee bit. I was gutted for him.
She didn't deserve that. So Bricktop tracks down the three amigos, which I'm just going to call them from now on, and they manage to save their lives by saying that they'll retrieve the diamond. And at first you think they're being a wee bit naive, but he agrees to that. In the meantime, Avi and Frank Butcher have hired the bounty hunter, Bullet Tooth Tony, to find Frankie, and there's a lot going on in that scene. But I think just before we get into kind of what's going on there, it's important to give Bullet Tooth Tony some screen time. Obviously, it's the main man, isn't it?
Vinnie Jones.
Main man Vinnie Jones, part of the crazy gang, was it?
Aye, Wimbledon. Aye.
Yeah.
Shit footballer.
He's a really good actor, though. He's a good actor, though, isn't he?
I don't know if he's good, mate. I mean, I think I've got to give him too much credit. I think he's probably made for the parts that he's been given. I mean, I don't think you could put him into another film.
He does. But I'm just judging it on this film, to be honest. But I think I really like him as a character in this.
He's a great character in it. How he's introduced as well, mate, was really good. It's like obviously Frank Butcher and Avi. I basically try to enlist him type of thing, and he goes, this guy took was it 6 bullets or something like that, and he took one in the teeth and that, and he was still standing. But as they're kind of saying this story, you get the cutscene of that scene actually playing out. Then you get a Chinese guy basically going, why won't you die?
Show not tell, isn't it, in action?
Aye, that's it.
I suppose they're telling us and showing us, I suppose.
Aye, they're doing both.
And they introduce him. He's in the meeting, isn't he? And I think it's Frank Butcher's 2 daughters.
Aye.
And he's sitting between them, and it's like, you can call me. What was the name he used? He's like, you can call me something for all I care. Susan.
Call me Susan.
But then he says it back to them as well, doesn't he? In the same scene.
Aye, he's like, what we call you? And he's like, you can call me Susan for all I care. And then
sorry, here you go.
And then I think he talks to the sister beside him, and her name is Susie. I think that's what happened there.
I like the way they introduced the 2 sisters at the start when they're like in the
pawn shop,
the kind of the
diamonds,
and it's they introduce one of them, and then the other one's like just appears from under the counter. I thought it was quite a good way to introduce them.
Because he says something to him, he's like, you told us. And then the other one appears, he's like, you told me. And then he says something again. They both say, aye, you told us. So that was good. It was a good introduction for them. You don't really see them
He's
that
got
often.
some good moments. I like where he puts so Bullet Tooth Tony has like a couple of guys who are kind of hanging about that he thinks will have some information about where Frankie is. And I like when he like closes the car window in his head and then just like starts to drive away with them.
Aye. Do you know who that was, mate? Aye.
Who was it?
He done that. Oh, surely you must know who that is.
Who is it?
It's Ewan Bremner. Spud for Train Spotting.
Right, I have seen Trainspotting, but it was.
I was about to say there, man.
No, I have seen it, but it was quite a few years ago.
Aye.
So it wouldn't have been at the forefront.
Train Spotting, eh? Like that.
I think with Bullet Tooth Tony, which is a hard one to say, he's brutal, but he's not like a monster in a way. Like he does kind of let people off the hook here and there, and maybe could do worse things to them in a lot of ways.
I think he just does enough to get information. Do you know what I mean? I think with the dialogue they had between, was it Mullen? I think, or Mullet they called him. Well, Spud for Train Spotting anyway. They seem to have had a kind of history anyway. Do you know what I mean? And whether they were friends or no, or kind of colleagues before, or I don't know, but I think he just did enough to get the information rather than take them to a darkened room and torture them. Do you know what I mean? He kind of tortured them in a kind of, in a polite sense, but obviously putting your seat in a car window and driving away isn't exactly a nice thing to do. But I don't know. But he got the information, and he didn't. Avi was pretty impressed as well by it because he got what he wanted.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in this bit, isn't there? There's people getting run over, there's people getting shot, there's car crashes, but by and large, everybody kind of ends up in the same kind of pub, don't they?
Aye. When I watched that, mate, again, I thought that was the Queen Vic. I didn't do research on it, mate, but I thought it was the Queen Vic for EastEnders. And I thought, Frank Butcher's in it, so I wonder if it is. But I don't know, it might be. It might not be. Maybe a Winchester for all I know, but I don't know.
It looks a bit like the Winchester at the front, actually.
Aye. But that bit was funny because you've got in the pub, you've got the Three Stooges who are pointing a gun at Bullet Tooth Tony.
It's not easy to say, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Basically, you can tell that Tony's get the upper hand because he knows the guns that they've got, and then he kind of starts to rhyme off the gun that he's got and what he's used before and things. And they kind of shite themselves and go and drinks his pint.
I like the way that bit was filmed. I like when it just like the camera just zooms in along the side of the gun.
Aye,
definitely. That's the kind of camera tricks I like.
What bit was it? I can't remember now. It's when Bullet Tooth Tony finds out it is Boris. It was the party. I think it must be just after this. And Avi goes, Tony goes, what, the bullet dodger? And Avi goes, why do you call him the bullet dodger? And he goes, because he dodges bullets, Avi. The way it happens, he dodges bullets.
I do find him really funny. So it's a bit chaotic. You've got Avi in like a corridor just off the pub, don't you? You've got Boris. You've got somebody with, is it Frankie with the bag over his head that's there in the same bit? No. Yeah.
No, I think Frankie not get knocked down.
Frankie does die, but I can't remember if that's his body or if that's someone else has got a bag over. Is it Tyrone maybe?
I can't remember now. But they've got the Three Stooges in there anyway.
There's a lot going on.
We've got Boris in there. I don't know. We've got Boris with a gun who's aiming at them. And at this point, in time we've got Bullet-Tooth Tony who's sitting drinking his pint still, but you can hear the commotion behind the wall, and then he's what does he say? Tie your shoelaces or something like that, and he shoots through and he, and he well, he thinks he kills him.
Yeah. So Boris is essentially killed in that bit, and then Saul and Vinny escape with a diamond. But they get to the car, don't they? And they think they're safe. And they're saying, like, why would someone want to like mug us? Because our car's not worth very much. But then that's when they realise that Bullet-Tooth Tony has kind of followed them there as well.
Aye, that's what happens, mate. And then the dog plays an important role in the next scene.
Yeah. Aye, because they think the dog's eating they think at first that the dog's eating the diamond.
Aye. Oh, by the way, let me ask you, what did you make the scene that it was like the rabbits, or the rabbit rather, was getting chased by the dogs, and then it kind of mirrored the other scene of, like, I was like, I couldn't remember what happened to that bit with the rabbit, and I was like, fuck man, I hope the rabbit doesn't get caught.
I know what it was. It was the same bit where Tyrone's like trying to escape.
Aye.
Because he's getting chased.
Aye.
And that's when he gets captured. I liked it. I like scenes where there's two things going on and they're kind of mirroring each other.
Aye, same.
And having Tyrone in there is also funny as well. So no, it's a good one. So yeah, they think the dog is eating the diamond, but it turns out that Vinny was actually just hiding it, wasn't he?
Aye, Vinny was hiding it down his trousers.
But then the dog the dog does get it, and it kind of flees to try and get back to the campsite because of the pungent smell.
The dog swallows the diamond eventually, and then but the bit before that, man, I was like, oh no, I can't remember what happened, man. And I was like, oh, I don't. And he goes to Bullet-Tooth Tony. All right, open the dog up. And he goes, what? It's a bit harsh, isn't it? He's like, open the dog up.
What was the quote? He's not a pair of car keys. No, not a pair of car keys. There's a quote there about the dog.
Aye. Oh, what is that, man? I'll come back to
there's
man.
There's just so much going on then, because also in that bit when they thought the dog had swallowed the diamond, they kind of come across Tyrone again, don't they? And he's about to get fed to the hounds.
Aye.
But they're saying like they can't lift him, so they just decide to leave him.
Oh, I remember the quote, mate. So he goes like that. He's like, looking at the dog, and he's like, open the dog up. And he goes, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? And he goes, it's not as if it's a tin of baked beans. So it's baked beans.
He's got some good line delivery.
But just to say, mate, sorry, man. You know, after the dog does eat the diamond, he jumps out the window, and at this point in time, Avi is furious, man. He's absolutely raging, and he's shooting. He's gone mental. He's just shooting for the sake of shooting, and accidentally kills Bullet-Tooth Tony. But we don't see it happening. We don't see him being shot. It's just because he goes Tony, and obviously by that point we know that he's shot him by mistake.
It's obviously been at the kind of forefront of my mind for watching and talking about this, but this film does have a lot of similarities to Pulp Fiction, doesn't it? It
does. I think it's got a lot of films, mate. It's got a lot of similar. It's got Ocean's 11 as well. I'd say it's got the bit where they introduce people to the start of the film. It's about the heists and all that. Get a few different things, but in terms of the way it's shot,
the kind of interlinking storylines, isn't it? And just because there's stuff about boxing and stuff and fights and Pulp Fiction as well, isn't there? It's just the way it's structured as well. Like it's kind of non-linear in a sense that there's just so many different things going on. That's my defense anyway. So getting towards the conclusion. So as you said, Avi goes back to New York, and Mickey, who has been quite calm about what happened to his mum, he's agreed to fight again, but he gets really drunk at his mother's wake, and then he's not really in a fit state. It never really is, but he wasn't really in a fit state for the fight where he was supposed to kind of fall down again.
Aye, I mean, Mickey agreed to the whole thing because he wanted the carnage and the chaos to stop, didn't he? He didn't want it to happen again. But Turkish does say, like, at the end of the film, I know we're kind of jumping ahead, like, Mickey seemed awfully calm. You know what I mean? He seemed awfully calm. What happened? You know, if it happened to somebody else, they would be going after heists. You know what I mean? But he was calm. It was an interesting quote for Mickey as well to say that, you know, when Turkish comes to the caravan, he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and he goes, "Did you do it?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Why are you sorry for? What are you sorry for?" Which I found interesting. Yeah, it's like, that's true, isn't it? Like, but it's a human thing. We say sorry for things, and you know, not it's your fault as such, but we're just sorry to hear that. Is probably what he meant to say.
It's just a thing you say, isn't it?
Aye.
So there's a lot of tension. Obviously, we've had the fight earlier where Mickey didn't kind of follow instructions, but now that he's been out on the lash as well, he's even more unpredictable. And at first, it looks like he's going to just knock the guy out in the first round again. But because of his condition, he starts to kind of get knocked about a fair bit. But he rallies, doesn't he? And he does it. He does it again. He doesn't follow instructions. He'd be getting a demerit for not following instructions, don't he?
Aye, I would say so. He's not following instructions for a long time.
But there's so much tension, isn't there? Because ever since the start of the film, Bricktop sends that kind of bit of fear down you, doesn't he? And he's got kind of everybody ready in case the same thing happens again. And Turkish and Tommy are there as well, and they're really nervous about the outcome as well because they know that they're on their kind of last chance.
Well, that's it. Because at the end of the day, mate, Turkish has recommended Mickey to Bricktop. You know what I mean? And Turkish does say in the film at the start that, you know, Bricktop is no somebody that you want to owe in money or any favours because you will never get out it. And
yeah.
So he is on his last side because you recommend him. He's lost a lot of money on it as well. You know what I mean? So the fight, obviously, you know, we think that Mickey is going to again just knock him at one punch, but as you say, he's obviously he's a worse for wear condition, and eventually
Chicken's a bit of an act, maybe, because obviously he did have a big plan in place. Maybe he was exaggerating a wee bit just to throw people off.
Maybe it was the kind of, you know, or maybe it was to get things in motion. Do you know what I mean, for that to happen at that time rather than at the start of the fight? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know when they're outside and whatever, or when it's going to happen. So maybe it was.
Everyone starts to like Turkish and Tommy are kind of starting to leave with Mickey because like things are starting to kick off. But then, just out of nowhere, it's the kind of window opens and the gun comes out, and Bricktop gets mowed down by the travellers.
He gets shot in the face.
Which was quite shocking. Like, I probably didn't expect him to go down. Well, maybe he did, but it was still quite a surprising moment anyway.
Well, I think the whole thing was a surprising moment. We didn't expect that they would ambush and basically execute him. I mean, like, it happened.
So Mickey had kind of stationed all his men, both inside and out, to take down Bricktop's men.
I did. It was he took them out like I say, I think it was all a plan, mate, from the start to finish. I mean, it was the end at that time, and they got what's coming to them, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was the retribution, that was the payback, the revenge, call it what you will, that Mickey was aiming for, because he hadn't forgot what happened to his mum. Do you know what I mean? He hadn't forgot, and that was his payback.
So that's the kind of second last scene. The last scene is where Turkish and Tommy go back to the travelers' campsite, and they, despite his eccentricness, they want to essentially recruit Mickey to be their guy, but it's all kind of deserted, isn't it? And then the police show up, and they're starting to ask some questions about why they're there. And then just out of nowhere, the dog reappears, and they're just, I'm just out walking my dog, which was a kind of faithful moment. But at that moment, the car goes past with Saul and Vinny, who is then discovered have Frank's body in the boot of the car with what was he? Was it tea cozy?
A tea cozy, he said. Tea cozy.
Yeah. So they get arrested, and it turns out the dog had a squeaky toy and also had swallowed the diamond as well.
I took him to the vet, and that's what they found. A couple of
and then they go to Frank Butcher, don't they, as well? At the end.
They go to Frank Butcher, and they obviously get it valued and all that, and he goes, I know somebody who witnessed to sell it, and it's basically selling it to Avi to get it back, and then you can see the cut scene back to Avi again, and it's like, the end with the passport. And that means that the cycle of the diamond will start all over again, probably in America. Do you know what I mean? That's what will happen, because the greed of people will always, in most cases, better people. There's a few things I want to say, mate, as well about I know we're coming to an end at a minute, but see the bit where they get to the kind of the caravan site and it's all deserted and whatever. The police turn up, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm just taking my dog a walk." And it was a happy coincidence that the dog was roaming about. And he goes, "What's in the car?" He goes, "A seat and a couple of seats in the steering wheel." And I was like, "Good answer, I like it." And he goes, "Go and get the dog, Tommy." And then Tommy's chasing the dog, and it's like, Daisy, give me a boy, Daisy. So he's calling the dog Daisy, but obviously he's referring to it as a boy, which I found funny as well. Do you know what I mean? But it was good, mate. The last two scenes, but you didn't mention as well. You didn't really say it that Turkish narrates over this at the scene where Bricktop gets pretty much executed. Is that, Mickey was a very intelligent man, speaking in a very unintelligent way, and basically he was putting money and bets on himself to win the fights.
Yeah, that's right.
And cleaning up. So he had no intentions of following the instructions of Bricktop, Turkish, or anyone. He was always in it for himself. To win.
You covered it well, because you don't see it coming, do you?
No, you do not.
I'm just trying to see. I screenshotted just a couple of quotes. Turkish says, "You take sugar," and Bricktop says, "No, thank you. I'm sweet enough," which is quite a good one. Yeah, we've mentioned those ones. I think we probably covered a lot of the ones that I screenshotted anyway.
I could be here all day, mate, if I was talking about it, honestly.
But that was it. So, anything else you want to add?
No, mate, I think I'm good.
It was a complicated film and plot, but hopefully, obviously we won't have covered absolutely everything. There will be things we've forgotten or mixed around, but considering I've watched it probably once in total, because as you know, I'm a sleepyhead, and there is kind of a lot to it. So it'd be good to, just before we do our seismic stars, we had one other comment on social media from Reboot Deboot, who said, "Fun. Just a good old bit of British honest crime." So, only 2 comments this week, but a lot of positivity about the film choice.
Good stuff.
So, James,
Colin.
what would you award this film out of 10 seismic stars?
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Thought you'd went higher, actually.
I was going to go 9. But I don't know, 8.5, mate. I'm just going to just say that. I mean, I think it's a great movie, mate. It's a fun watch. It's got a really good blend of comedy and kind of dark bits as well. It's a black comedy, dark humour type of film. It's got a really good cast, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think it was probably the film that really kind of put people into a good light. Like Jason Statham, for example, and we've got Stephen Graham, who's went on to do brilliant things with Martin Scorsese and did loads of stuff. Do you know what I mean? He's actually a Scouser in real life. I don't really think he pulled off the accent that well, to be fair. But
I'm no expert in accents, me.
No, there am I, mate. To be fair, it was a better accent than me, put it that way, which wouldn't be hard anyway. No, it was a really good cast, like I say, mate. It was fun. It was fast paced. It was because the amount of characters had their different stories and how they all blended together. I felt like you couldn't really miss a beat, mate. Do you know what I mean? You had to really watch it.
Yeah,
and then,
that's why I watched it twice.
And I really enjoyed it, mate. That way, for that reason, mate. Do you know what I mean? So, aye, an 8.5, buddy. It was.
What stopped it from being a 10 then? Or is it just not that kind of film for you?
I mean, I'm no big into the films, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's not my favourite genre of film. I think I appreciate it for what it is and for when it was released and things. And it's not one that I can say that it holds a lot of nostalgia. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a film like that for me. And I've maybe gave 9s and 10s for ones who have and things. I kind of hold dear a wee bit more, but like I say, but it's just I liked it for what it was, and I don't know, mate. 8.5 is a good score, mate. You know what I mean? Decent score at that.
Okay. If you'd asked me after my first viewing, considering I missed a lot of it, as I mentioned before, for being a serial napper, the second time around, I think I got it in terms of the vibe, because going into the film, you don't really know what it's going to be like. Like it wasn't kind of what I expected, I think, going in. In terms of a score, I'm kind of stuck between 7 and 7.5, which isn't kind of too far off kind of your ballpark. I'm gonna go, I think I'll go 7.
Okay.
And the reasons are kind of similar to yours. Like, it's not a genre that I'm that familiar with. Like, I tend to watch a lot more horror or sci-fi, kind of psychological kind of thriller kind of films. I do kind of enjoy it. Like, I really enjoyed Pulp Fiction. I enjoyed The Gentleman as well. The main thing that kind of knocked it down a bit for me, and I just want to say before that I thought it did have a great cast. I thought there's a wide variety of great characters. I particularly liked, obviously Tyrone. I liked Bullet Tooth Tony, or whatever his silly name is. I thought Bricktop was a good villain. I thought Brad Pitt was good in it. I liked Turkish and Tommy. There's lots of good characters. But what I actually think brought it down a wee bit for me was there was so many characters, and there was so many kind of interpersonal relationships between the characters that if I was to watch it again, I would know where everything fits together. But I think the first couple of times you watch it, as you said, you need to pay really close attention to absolutely everything. And us being tired teachers, sometimes that's difficult to do when you're not on holiday. So I love the director style. A lot of similarities to kind of like the Edgar Wright movies. The humor, there's lots of great lines in it. Characters, cast, all good. And it's just, I think I just found it. I think because I was viewing it with reviewing it in mind, and
Yeah.
like kind of leading the review, and I'm like, oh my god, I've seen this for the first time. I've made an error here because there's so much to get through, and what if I forget? And I did forget bits, but I think overall, with the help of some trusty websites at my side, kind of managed to hold it together. But I think 7, but I think 7 could rise to kind of 7.58 in the future if I rewatched it, kind of knowing what I know now.
No,
I
I
don't know if I'm
get
going to
that, mate.
get lynched. I don't know if I'm going to get lynched for those comments, but I do think there was a huge cast, and there's so many characters that could be considered like major characters or like kind of supporting characters.
That's fair dues, mate. You know what I mean? That's fair enough. I understand. Yeah, you said before in films if there's too many characters with different kind of plots and things, then it kind of tends to throw you off a wee bit. So that's okay, mate.
Short attention span.
So
Right. So that just, I know, that brings to the end I saw a quote. It was, when I was pre-children, I was able to watch 3 movies a night. Now it takes me 3 nights to watch one movie. That's literally me. I'll watch like half an hour, half an hour, and then rewatch it because I missed bits when I dozed off. So very, very true. So just to bring the review to the end, so you can find Seismic Cinema on a wide range of platforms. We always appreciate a wee follow, a wee message. If anyone ever wants to do any collaborations, you can let us know. We also have the Seismic Soccer Instagram and Facebook pages, and Seismic Soccer has been revived by Paul and Gary, who, well, Gary's never been on Seismic Cinema, but Paul has been, obviously, many times. So if you can give that a follow as well and check out the latest Seismic Soccer episode. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, and all those other lovely places. And make sure you give the good people at the Podpack Collective the shout out that they deserve. So we're sitting at 175 subscribers on YouTube now. And it would be great if you could help us on our journey to 180 by subscribing if you enjoyed this episode. And why not give us a wee follow on Spotify as well? I just saw, James, because I was kind of uploading Ghostbusters in the background here, that we've actually passed 4,000 views on Spotify now, which is pretty cool.
That's really good. Okay. Thank you for those who are tuning in to Spotify. Happy days.
Seismic Soccer's done pretty well in there. It's got about 30 views on there, so that's all good.
All those Celtic fans listen to the Rangers bashing.
Yeah. It could have been a lot worse, and they were made to look a bit silly after the Fenerbahce first leg result. But also, I'll look silly now after the Fenerbahce second leg result, whenever this comes out. Before we sign off, James, I was wondering if you had any movies you wanted to put into the reckoning for the next review.
I do, mate. I've got 3 films ready for a voting poll. So my 3 films are Rocky 4,
All right.
Beverly Hills Cop. I've wanted to. I think when I put it out, I don't think we put it for a vote. So I'm putting it out to people this time. And the last one is Bad Boys. Bad Boys. What you gonna do?
I'm glad it's not Bad Boys 2.
Why?
It's a Hot Fuzz reference. I don't know if you remember the scene when Nick Frost's character was like Point Break or Bad Boys 2. So I bought both of those DVDs so I can do that gag. But For some reason, I've owned both of them and I've never watched either of them. They're just sitting in my DVD cabinet and I've never watched them. And it's become a bit of a running gag that I've not watched them.
Did you buy everything from Hot Fuzz, mate? You've got a Japanese Peace Lily, you've got the Bad Boys 2 DVD, Point Break DVD, you've got something else, I'm sure, as well.
I've got the soundtrack DVD, CD. Yep. So some interesting options. My Rocky history is a bit rocky. I've seen the first one, and I've seen Creed 1 and 2, and I've not seen any other ones. So do I need to see 2 and 3 to watch 4, or can I get by?
Your Apollo Creed is in. I don't want to give them away, mate. I don't want to say anything.
After time.
It would help.
Anyway to watch.
It would help if you watched it.
I doubt I'd have time to rewatch 1 and then watch 2 and 3, then 4. So I might just get a wee synopsis and go into 4, if that's the film that's chosen anyway.
You've done a poll, mate. You've watched it in the wrong order.
Yeah, I really do enjoy it. I really enjoyed the Creed movies. I never seen the third one. I think I meant to see it in the cinema, then never got around to it. So there we go. So yeah, that's our options for next week. As I said, I always forget what order things are coming out nowadays, but Ghostbusters will be there or thereabouts. Seismic Soccer 2. Don't forget to give Anchorman some love. Okay, so just to finish off, I'm Colin. I had not seen Snatch. I've now sort of seen it twice. Paul probably watched like the Gentleman TV show, The Gentleman, this Pulp Fiction. I don't know. Paul did something weird when he was watching things, right? James?
I have probably written an essay on it.
Well, people need to make sure they've read that then. So, yeah, thank you, and have a good one.
Housewarming Saturday, sorry I can't. Wedding reception, no sorry I